Angel Reese has quickly become one of the most talked about names in women's basketball. Whether it's her dominance on the boards, her confidence in front of the cameras, or her willingness to speak her mind, Reese has already cemented herself as a polarizing but powerful figure in the WNBA. Playing for the Chicago Sky, she has had a roller coaster of a season filled with career highs, public controversies, and major questions about the future of both her career and the franchise she currently calls home. Today we're diving into everything that has happened with Angel Reese this year, from her standout numbers to her ongoing tension with the Sky's front office, and what it all means for the next chapter of her career. Statistically speaking, Reese has delivered in a way that few young players in the league ever have. Over the course of the 2025 season, she averaged nearly 15 points per game and led the WNBA in rebounding with more than 12 boards a night. That kind of consistency put her in rare company, especially considering she's only in her early 20s. She was also the league leader in double-doubles, racking up 23 in just 30 games, which shows just how reliable she was on a nightly basis. Her field goal percentage hovered around 46%, and she shot a respectable 75% from the free throw line. She even chipped in a few assists and played tough defense, making her one of the most complete young forwards in the league. On paper, Angel Reese was having a season worth celebrating. The problem, however, is that basketball is not an individual sport, and the Chicago Sky as a team were struggling badly. They finished the season 10-34, one of the worst records in the WNBA, and were nowhere near playoff contention. That gap between Reese's individual excellence and the team's overall failure is where a lot of the tension began to boil. Toward the end of the season, Reese gave a candid interview where she made it clear that simply running it back with the same roster wasn't an option. She said the Sky needed to bring in good players, great players if they wanted to compete, and hinted that if they didn't make real changes she might have to move in a different direction. The comments immediately went viral, sparking debate across social media and sports talk shows. Some applauded her honesty, saying it was refreshing to see a young star hold her franchise accountable, while others felt she crossed the line by putting her team on blast in public rather than keeping the criticism behind closed doors. The Chicago Sky front office didn't take the comments lightly either. Shortly after, the organization announced that Reese would be suspended for the first half of an upcoming game, calling her remarks detrimental to the team. This was on top of a separate league suspension she had already received for technical foul accumulation, which meant Reese suddenly found herself missing multiple games down the stretch of the season. Officially, the Sky later listed her as being out with a back injury, causing her to miss even more time, but the timing made a lot of fans question whether the injury was the only factor at play. Reese did eventually issue an apology, saying she could have chosen her words more carefully, but the damage had already been done. The narrative was out there. Angel Reese was frustrated, the Sky were frustrated, and the relationship between the two sides was being tested. Despite the public fallout, the Sky's general manager Jeff Pagliocca has remained firm that Angel Reese is still very much a part of the team's plans. He stated openly that she's on this roster until I hear differently, suggesting that no trade is on the table at the moment and that the organization values her too highly to consider moving her. Pagliocca also acknowledged that the roster construction needs to improve and that the Sky have to find a way to build a more competitive team around their young star. Still, many believe this situation is far from settled. Reese's comments were not vague hints but direct calls for change, and if the Sky fail to make meaningful moves in the offseason, there's a real chance that this tension could flare back up again. Beyond the on-court drama, Reese has also been very vocal about broader issues in the WNBA, particularly around player salaries and financial stability. Earlier this year, she made headlines when she said that a $50,000 bonus she earned from winning a separate 3-on-3 event called Unrivaled wasn't just a luxury, it was something she actually needed to help cover expenses. That statement resonated with a lot of fans who have been pushing for better pay and conditions for WNBA players. Reese's honesty about money and lifestyle added to her image as a player unafraid to speak the truth, even when it makes the league or her team uncomfortable. But again, it also fueled the narrative that she's a disruptor, someone who isn't content with playing the game and staying quiet. From a fan perspective, Reese has remained one of the most popular and polarizing figures in women's basketball. Her unapologetic personality has won her a huge following on social media, especially among younger fans who love her confidence and authenticity. At the same time, critics argue that her outspokenness sometimes distracts from her game, or puts unnecessary pressure on her teammates and coaches. This split reaction is part of what makes her such a fascinating figure. She's not afraid to be loved or hated, and she knows how to keep herself at the center of the conversation. So where do things go from here? There are a few different scenarios on the table. The most optimistic one for Chicago is that the Sky take Reese's comments seriously, use the offseason to bring in more talent, and position themselves to compete next year with Reese as the centerpiece. If that happens, Reese might feel like her voice was heard and buy into the team's future. Another possibility, though, is that the Sky fail to deliver meaningful change and Reese starts to push harder for a trade. Given her age, talent, and star power, she would be one of the most sought-after players on the market. Teams in need of a dynamic forward who can rebound at an elite level would line up to make offers. There's also the possibility that the situation just gets messier, with Reese continuing to voice her frustrations publicly, and the Sky resisting any moves, leading to a standoff that could define the team's next few years. What makes all of this so significant is the timing. The WNBA is in a moment of growth with more media attention, higher attendance, and rising stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese bringing in new fans. For Chicago, having Reese as a franchise player is both a blessing and a challenge. She's the kind of player who can draw crowds, sell jerseys, and give the Sky an identity. But she's also someone who demands accountability, and if the organization isn't ready to match her ambition, the partnership may not last. At the end of the day, Angel Reese's 2025 season is a perfect example of how complicated success in professional sports can be. Individually, she was excellent. Statistically, she proved she belongs among the league's best. But success isn't just about numbers, it's about chemistry, organizational vision, and trust between players and management. Right now, that trust seems fragile in Chicago. Whether it can be repaired will depend not just on Reese, but on whether the Sky are truly ready to build a contender around her. So, what do you think? Should Angel Reese stick it out with the Sky and trust the process as the team tries to rebuild, or is it time for her to push for a new start elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more WNBA coverage, stories, and breakdowns. Angel Reese isn't just another player, she's shaping the conversation around women's basketball and you can bet we'll be following every twist and turn in her journey.